Hey there! So at the moment, I'm sitting here drinking my coffee, the new contest dungeon finally in the rearview mirror, and I have some random thoughts about Destiny 2 related stuff, episode Heresy related stuff, the new dungeon in general, and some other very random stuff I just kind of feel like sharing in a hodgepodge kind of video, and mostly good stuff, by the way. Although there will be some, critiques, I'll say. Let's actually start with one of my few critiques about the new dungeon in general, which I otherwise thought was great. So, we're really doing this, huh, Bungie? The dungeon got cleared, and slowly but surely, the secret hunters in the D2 community began to engage in one of their all-time favorite activities, scouring the dungeon top to bottom in search of in-game mysteries. A fun process, which I find really interesting. However, we found out that Bungie has time-gated the secret hunting. You can only get so far in the dungeon secret quest until we're actually not sure. All we can do is just wait right now. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this really isn't that bad, but I mean, come on, Bungie. Look, I'll only ever claim to speak for just myself. I am far from the voice of the community on many topics, I'm sure, but I can't imagine that players would enjoy getting time-gated on secret hunting of all things in particular. I can't help but wonder if this was done after the, quite frankly, insane Icebreaker Catalyst quest that was solved incredibly quickly by diehard secret chasers, aka lovable lunatics like Scare09 and such. And I have to imagine that Bungie just threw up their hands at that point and went, we gotta time-gate it. No matter how deeply we hide these things, they're just gonna find this shit in like a day. But yeah, I kinda love the secret chase right after the new dungeon or raid drops. I think time-gating it is just a bit lame. Gonna say that I hope they don't do that again with future dungeons or raids. That being said, Tuesday at Reset, I'm gonna try to finish the Drowning Labyrinth quest, if it can be finished on Tuesday, that is, and find the remaining secrets, so come swing by, we'll do some hunting together. That one particular complaint aside though, I have mostly awesome things to say about the Sunder Doctrine dungeon. On the whole, I thought it was appropriately challenging for a contest dungeon, aside from one very odd hiccup, which I'll talk about in a minute. The mechanics were out there, but fun. I enjoyed the whole spiel of rotating the giant gold lenses around to reflect light, all while trying to not get my ass kicked by the dread. In hindsight, one aspect of Sunder Doctrine I think is really well done is that the entire dungeon seems to have been designed around the game of two truths and a lie. In the first encounter and the final boss encounter, you can complete them both without ever needing to find or kill the truth speaker Grim. For example, the dungeon boss encounter, by just reading the symbols on the left or right side of the wheel and having some basic lore knowledge, you can know what symbols to find and illuminate right away. Check the screenshot right here. The statement on the left side of the wheel, the Traveler gives the Guardians. Yeah, that is true. The Traveler essentially created us. That is a truth. Then on the right side of the wheel, you have the Witness kills the pyramids. And yeah, that is not true. The Witness and the pyramids are bros. Therefore, that is the lie. That side of the wheel needs to be illuminated. So why include the truth speakers at all, you might be wondering? Well, they probably wanted to have a fallback option for the folk out there who either are brand spanking new to the game or for people who just don't know a ton about the lore in general. The truth speaker is the fallback mechanic for those types of people, and I love that idea. All the info in my dungeon guide, thanks for watching that by the way, is all technically correct, the best kind of correct, but I love that there's multiple potentially shorter ways to figure out some of the encounters based on just paying attention to the symbols and knowing a bit of lore. Hella creative, IMO, well done. One thing though that I can't get out of my head at all is that apparently the second encounter, aka the Shrieker encounter, which a lot of teams struggled with, was bugged on contest mode. Apparently when damaging the Shrieker boss in Encounter 2, players, quote, receive critical damage feedback, but damage is actually regular base damage. Translation, you shoot the Shrieker in the dead center of the eye and receive a yellow damage number telling you that you landed a crit, but in reality, you're actually just dealing regular non-crit damage the entire time. If you think about it, this is genuinely one of the wildest contest bugs we've ever had in the history of D2. It explains why most teams wound up rolling with Sleeper Simulant on day one instead of Queenbreaker. On paper, new glow-up Queenbreaker, which is strong this episode by the way, should have outperformed Sleeper, but it didn't. Sleeper Simulant's body shot damage is noticeably higher than other linear fusion rifles, and that's why it was so reliable for encounter to DPS during contest mode. Some folks over at Bungie have got to be breathing a sigh of relief that even with this bug, teams were clearing encounter 2. But it kinda reminded me of the contest mode King's Fall raid, where a ton of teams got straight up DPS checked at the War Priest encounter. I truly wonder though, if that second encounter damage bug didn't exist, how badly would that contest dungeon have been burned down? I'm talking like record time. Queenbreaker or any number of other Godroll LFRs would have burned down that sucker immediately with proper crit damage. I feel like to some people this might fall under the umbrella of a happy or at least interesting accident. I kinda enjoy really hard damage checks, but I'm sure there are other players out there understandably gnawing on their desk knowing that the encounter was bugged, and maybe that's where they and their team tapped out. And if the bug didn't exist, they might have probably cleared. And believe me, I would fully get their frustration if that were the case. That would suck. Thankfully though, looking like redemption is on the table. If you weren't aware, PlayStation Online services were getting repeatedly kicked in the taint during the contest race, meaning the PlayStation D2 folk just couldn't play the new dungeon during the contest window. And even though it's 100% a Sony issue, Bungie's actually been pretty chill about it and made the announcement that they're going to be doing a contest makeup weekend of some kind at some point in the future. First of all, GG to whoever over there greenlit that decision, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to it because when this inevitably goes live, I feel that they won't be able to discern or divide who gets access to the activity based on how they play D2. Basically, I'm saying that the makeup weekend in all likelihood will probably be available to all D2 players, not just the PlayStation people. Therefore, a bunch of people are going to get a shot at redemption at the contest dungeon, and depending on when it happens, I may try to stream some contest dungeon carries. That might be fun. Also, please, for the love of God, I hope they don't end up doing it the same weekend as the next Monster Hunter Wilds open beta. I already got to split my time that weekend between that and the new Trials rework. Although I guess it would be better to release it that weekend than during the release of actual Monster Hunter Wilds. Anyway, for the record, DMG, I would never actually fart in your Cinnamon Toast Crunch, unless you were into that, in which case new Patreon tier coming soon. I think the new dungeon exotic weapon itself is hilarious. It creates a turret on the field that can spew out fire at nearby enemies. I want to put out a full review of everything that weapon can do, but I want to put in the time on the weapon first before rushing anything out too quick. Do I think it'll be hard meta? I don't know, probably not. But again, it's a funny exotic and it's damn unique, so I'm already more interested in that weapon than I am in other exotics. Regarding the Nether activity in episode Heresy, I was at first really excited when I heard there was an explore option for the Nether, aka I wouldn't have to worry about doing the boss fight stuff or mini encounters if I didn't want to, and had totally free reign to explore the Dreadnought at my leisure. But the explore option is just the exact same thing as the regular Nether. The only difference, as far as I can tell, is that in the regular Nether, every now and then the Drifter yells at you to kill 3 taken blights that pop up within a certain time limit, and if you don't, you fail. I'm glad that doesn't exist in the explore option of the Nether, but as far as I can tell, that is the only difference. If I queue into explore mode, I can't just openly explore the entire Dreadnought unless I do all the mini encounters and kill the main boss of that area to unlock the ability to move on to the next area, which is exactly how it works in the regular Nether. So what the hell's the point? I feel like in explore mode, all the areas should be unlocked and you can roam around without having to do any of that stuff, but maybe that's just me. More random thoughts. Is Bungie ever going to give us a follow-up to Pantheon? I don't mean like a Pantheon-like activity. I mean like direct Pantheon 2.0. I often think about how hard they knocked that out of the park. It was one of my favorite activities when it was around. Even folks who had never raided at all before were kind of getting into it. I feel like giving us a follow-up Pantheon gauntlet at some point would be such a total layup in terms of fun activity that much of the player base would easily enjoy. I know they mentioned a while back at some point in 2024 that we'd eventually be getting some kind of content, quote, along the lines of Pantheon, but I don't think we've heard anything about it since and would love an update on that at some point, because goddamn, I really want to gild my Godslayer title pretty badly, one of the only titles I care about. And open question, by the way, why do some people still hate on Saltagrepo? I don't really get it. I've talked to him a couple times about the game and other stuff, and he seems like a genuinely nice dude. Can't help but notice that around contest dungeon and or contest raid time, people say wild shit to him on social media. And even though he could so easily pop off on these people, he never does. What else? What else? Oh yeah, watching Milo, aka Mr. Raffle Waffles, who if you didn't know is a content creator who mainly does COD zombie stuff, decided that he wanted to marathon grind Destiny 2 for a week after not having played since Forsaken because he wanted to see if he could beat the contest dungeon. He ended up doing it, by the way, and his entire mini journey was genuinely pretty entertaining to watch and be a small part of. I'm glad he enjoyed the experience so much, and I'd be really interested in seeing other content creators from other games do this in the future, especially with contest-related content, either dungeons or raids, which would be extra entertaining, I'm sure. I'd personally love to watch somebody like Otsdarva. He's a Dead by Daylight creator I really enjoy watching. Try to prepare for and complete a contest raid in D2. Also, I think I'd be interested in doing something like that for other games. Are there any other comparable major one-day events out there for other games in the same vein as a contest raid or dungeon? If so, maybe let me know. Might want to look into that. Could be fun. The Game to Give charity stuff was fun, and I love that despite the ups and downs, the D2 community as a whole still manages to show up and come together for raising large amounts of money for the less fortunate. That is something I'll straight up always be happy thinking about. Also, this has nothing to do with anything, but Todd Habercorn seems like a treasure, and every live event he becomes a part of just immediately turns to gold.
All right, all right, all right. The only thing more valuable than a bundle of motes is a bundle of emblems, specifically heartfelt, binary, and GDS emblems. They're waiting for you. Yum, 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 yum.
Also, yes, I heard the news. A lot of people were DMing me when the article came out, but Chris Proctor has apparently taken a new job and is no longer with Bungie. A lot of mixed feelings on that, as there's a bunch of different ways you could potentially interpret him leaving. If you didn't know, Chris Proctor was the senior design lead at Bungie and was a major driving force in making a lot of the awesome weapons in the game for years. As a content creator, I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to meet with a number of devs from different gaming companies, usually at events or conventions or whatever. And speaking subjectively, of course, Chris was one of the best of the best. I can only imagine how many game devs would react if a random YouTuber jumped out of the metaphorical bushes and started asking them a trillion questions about the most minuscule random bullshit you can think of. The majority of them would understandably probably brush you off or leave you on red. But the few times where I was able to speak with Chris and he was given the okay from the higher ups at Bungie to chat about weapon details openly, for example, when we had him on the Firing Range podcast, which we haven't done in a while, he was truly happy to talk about weapon and sandbox details and just talk shop in general. When me and Cross and Dado and a whole handful of other content creators went out to give early impressions on the final shape content before it dropped, something I made a few videos on, Chris Proctor, again, went out of his way while we were there to spend time talking with creators about the new weapons, the sandbox changes, everything. And even when many others had punched out and gone home for the day, which was totally fine for them to do, of course, Chris was happy to stay and chat away with me and many other people about the design philosophy and numbers behind Zen Moment or whatever it was, until they literally had to turn the lights off and we had to go home. I figured it would only be a matter of time before he got a new gig, and I say that for no other reason than he's a talented dude, and because if you look around the gaming landscape right now, a lot of companies are itching to get success in the live service category. Some companies find that success, while others very much do not. And in the same way that a lot of content creators know each other, I'm sure a lot of game devs know each other, so I'm sure a guy like Chris Proctor would be probably well known for making some of the more awesome shit at Bungie, at least weapon-wise. Meaning I could imagine some company being like, oh yeah, we gotta get that guy, dude, he's great. But yeah, anyway, bittersweet that he's leaving, but I hope whatever game he works on next is great, and whoever steps in to be the new top weapon dog at Bungie, yeah, they've got big shoes to fill. And that's it. That's all the random thoughts I have. Oh wait, no, there's one more. We're getting a new, hey, go sub to a streamer of your choice and get this dope emblem coming up type thing. And this one's actually kind of fire. Although I was hoping they would do it during the dungeon, which I think was the original plan. They originally announced it as earnable on February 7th, aka Dungeon Day in one of the twids, but then 1 week later, changed it to February 11th, kind of out of nowhere. Random, but whatever. All right, that's it for real. More Heresy content on the way. Let me know your random D2 thoughts if you have any down in the comment section. Thanks for watching. See you next time.